I'm David Chambers, and I am a stage director, theater and opera, and professor at the Yale School of Drama of Directing. And my experience with Russian theater in Russia came fairly late in my life, in that I had grown up in the political 60s, and therefore was drawn to Brecht as much as and avant-garde theater and action theater, et cetera, et cetera. But looming in the background of all that material was this name Meyerhold, and I kept wondering what this was. And there was very little in English at that point, very little about Meyerhold in English, and then a little more was published, and then Brown's books came out, et cetera. And I think where I went in my mind is I have to jump over this Brecht thing and get to the taproot, not necessarily Brechtian theater, but the kind of theater I'm actually interested in, which has formal qualities to be sure, but also has a very, very powerful social context. Jump several years, at a conference in Montreal, I run into a man from St. Petersburg named Nikolai Pezoshinsky. I say to Pezoshinsky, why doesn't your school and my school, I was at Yale by this time, do something about Meyerhold? And Nikolai, with his wonderful elfin manner, said, it should be the Revizor. And I actually knew, fortunately, the word Revizor. And that set us off on a 5-year project, which was a reconstruction of Meyerhold's Revizor. We made ultimately a production about a production. It wasn't a literal copy, but we spent years in the archives translating material, finding old notebooks, photographs. We uncovered the original score. All of this stuff was still burrowed away in archives. And with photographs and all this information we compiled, we began to stage what we thought it looked like, and then we built a frame around that. That played in Russia, it played here at Yale, it played at a festival in Amsterdam, and that required several trips, and I found myself feeling very comfortable in Russia and saying, I have some sort of spiritual home here, some sort of past life. I don't know what it is, but I feel very connected to the place. Many trips to Petersburg, trip to Yekaterinburg and Nizhny Tagil to adopt my wonderful son, Dmitry, who is now living here in this country. He's 12 years old. And some trips to Moscow, fewer. But to Kamas Theater, which I came to know fairly well when they were in this country, Toya Smolyansky at the Moscow Art Theater, various other people. And I try to keep up with it through John Friedman, who is a noted critic in the English language, who is actually the bulletin of current Russian theater, and I read his material regularly. This has absolutely come deeply into my teaching here. It's helped clarify any number of thoughts. I think Meyerhold was a huge inspiration for me professionally. I no longer copy him, but he whispers in my ear, be true to yourself, now and again. And I think I have gained great artistic courage through what I learned through Meyerhold, who I feel somehow was a mentor. Most recently, though, because of the American tradition of acting, I've been looking at analysis of action through Tostanogov and various offshoots of those ideas that came through Knebel. Looking at Afros. I've had conversation with Lev Dodin about this, and very interested that some of this methodology, both of analysis of action and method of physical action, are still deployed by directors as contemporaries, Butusov, who studied with a disciple of Tostanogov's. So we are busy translating a lot of this material. I think it is a directing methodology that is very flexible and very open and has many variants and is very subject to however the artists want to take it. Vasilia, Grotowski, a great number of figures who have actually been terribly important in the advancement of the art have worked on this method, so it's not a dogma. And we are translating things now, and I'm working with my students on how this might be deployed as we approach texts that with a certain sense of a directorial method, both in analysis and practice in the rehearsal hall.
In brief, you want to tell me a little bit about your work with the Playwright and Director Center?
Yes, I came to the Playwright and Director Center slightly by accident. I was actually in Petersburg on a Likhachov Fellowship researching Tostanogov and talking with Doden and various other things. And originally our dean at the drama school, James Bundy, was supposed to come to the Playwright and Director Center. He was unable to come, so I was asked to fill in because I was nearby, I suppose. Came down not knowing really what I was walking into. I knew that Merat and other people had come over, and we'd met for a moment, actually, not extensively while they were here at Yale. What I walked into was really kind of thrilling. There were 4 plays by Yale playwrights that had been translated into Russian, cut down to 1 hour, directed by young Russian directors with some spectacular acting. And it was one of the most valuable new play experiences I'd ever had in my life. The playwrights had not been there, so they came in having no idea what had gone on and seeing their play in a different language. All of these plays had had a production at one place or another before. What I saw was thrilling interpretations, quite different from what American interpretations of the plays of those that I had seen had been. And I saw the playwrights challenged, thrilled, excited, frustrated, but learning very, very deeply. We actually brought some of the ideas back and have remodeled our first year playwriting and directing laboratory, which has a group of actors, dramaturgs, directors, and playwrights together, quite a bit on the experience that we had at the Playwright and Director Center in Moscow.